All right, folks, here is your weekly announcements for the week of April 27th through May 3rd. First of all, this is the week that you really have to buckle down and think about this pass-fail attendance, or not attendance, pass-fail policy. So Friday is the deadline to change a class from a letter grade to a pass-fail. If you don't know what this means, you should reach out to either me or your advisor to clarify this, because this is really important in terms of how we've all been really displaced this semester. So in the announcements and in Sakai, I've linked the full policies here, and so in the form to apply for the pass-fail grade, make sure that you do that before Friday. All right, I also said last week that I would give a recap on our wage gap stuff. So Robert helped me out here. So this is a word cloud of the occupation choices that you all made. It's the only problem with this is some of the occupations had two words for the title, like social work, and this is just looking at one word. But we have here the jobs that were chosen more often: physician, social worker, counselor, something to do with computers. So these are the types of jobs that were chosen. Keep in mind that this is not a random selection in terms of statistically a true random selection. All right, and I'm gonna pop out of the screen really quick here so you can see the actual data here. So all of the occupations and on the text in purple represents jobs that are female dominated, and all of the orange represents the jobs that are male dominated. So meaning the ratio was more than 50% female the percent was more than 50% female if it was more female dominated in the job. And just looking, again, this isn't a random distribution, a random choice of occupations, but if we look at the choices here selected by folks, and the gray line represents where that average women make 82 cents on the dollar for men. So I put the gray line there, showing how many jobs fall over that number and how many are falling under. And so the majority of jobs that the people, and I deleted any duplicates here, but the majority of jobs that people chose here were more than the average wage gap that we see. And then the counselor position actually shows that women make more than men in this job, and it is definitely a female dominated job. We can see that 75% of counselors are women compared to the 25% that are men. And then some other jobs there at the top really getting close to parity, to men and women making about the same in those jobs. Whereas at the bottom here, we see with physicians, marketing and sales managers, those two at the bottom there, and really the chefs and head cooks are not far off there, that those are male-dominated jobs because they're in orange, and they are definitely less than the average women's ratio of men's salary. So women in those fields are getting paid much less. So just some interesting data that you all collected. Thank you, or that you all submitted. Thank you for participating in that. All right, so on to instructions for this week. Task number 1, read chapter 10 in the textbook. It's your last textbook chapter. Task number 2 is to take reading quiz 11 about family. Task number 3 is to review the first lecture called Introduction to Family. And then task number 4 is to complete the lecture response, which is a family drawing or photo, and then reflection activity in connection with the lecture material. Task number 5 is to review the second lecture that's about marriage, who and why, and you'll be doing some data interpretation there. And then task number 6, you'll be working on SGA 7 called Modern Family. So what you'll be doing here is you'll be watching the pilot episode of Modern Family. I do apologize for the low quality. It's a free, if we're in class I could get the DVD, but this is just a link to a free show, and hopefully it works. Let me know if you have any problems with that. If you're going to do your SGA on your own, that's not a problem. Just let your groups know. Thank you for everyone who did that last time. I've got a suggested meeting time here on Friday the 1st, but work it out with your members, figure out what works for you all. And then finally fill out the evaluation afterwards. Unless you worked alone, you don't have to do that. And the links are posted on Sakai this time. So what's due this week? By Sunday night, you should have turned in Reading Quiz 11, your Learning Check, which is the photo drawing in response to the questions, your SGA 7 worksheet, and your SGA 7 evaluation. And then what's next? Next week is kind of a shorter week for us because we were supposed to have 2 days of SGA activities, and I just cut that out completely. So it'll really only be one lecture and activity about religion. The reading is posted as a Sakai, or as a PDF on Sakai, because we're done with the textbook. So your last 2 readings are just posted on Sakai. And then make sure you're working on your final paper as well. Let me know if you have any questions, especially having to do with that pass-fail policy, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.